Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. It's time for another book review segment on food. I have my little doggy here. Well, it's been a while since I did one. I think I did Anthony Bourdain last. And she was wearing a Christmas outfit at the time and sleeping on my lap. But tonight she's full of piss and vinegar. So we're just going to let her, if you hear squeakies, that's going to be her. But we're going to let her not sit on my lap because she's got too much energy right now. You go play with Squeaky. So it's been a minute, and I want to talk about something that I got to experience for the first time last summer on my birthday. And I went to see my family. My family lived near the border of Wisconsin. And I had heard a lot about Wisconsin supper clubs because I read a lot of books about them. And there was one I wanted to go in particular that has won the award of #1 supper club in Wisconsin. We'll talk about that in a minute. Go back to the teaching of. Now there's a lot of confusion about what a supper club is. Some people think it's just a restaurant that's locally owned and has regulars and has yummy food, but it's a little bit more than that. And I fell down the rabbit hole with this book. This was the one that started everything for me probably about 4 years ago. I think what happened was that anybody who knows me is I'm a big YouTuber, not just with doing YouTube videos myself, but I like listening to what other people have to say. And I think he was the first one I stumbled across, this author named Ron Faiola, and he was being interviewed by I think it was called a show called maybe Wisconsin Foodie or something like that, although there is a show called Wisconsin Foodie. And he mentioned this book. So immediately I go online and I got to get this book, right? And I read it and it's really helpful. And what happened with this book is this author traveled around Wisconsin, and an older gentleman, I don't know, he's maybe the same age as me, I can't tell with age, but he went to not every, because there are a lot. In this book in particular, he mentions many supper clubs. In fact, he breaks up the state into quadrants. The southeast quadrant, which is closest to where I grew up, the southwest quadrant, the northeast quadrant, the north central, and the northwest. And he has probably in here 50 or 60 supper clubs that he went to. Can you imagine all the calories and all the treadmill walking he had to do to burn off those calories? And he'd go in there and get to know the owner, bartender, wait staff, and he would order what would look good. And then he wrote about it in this book. So I would go online and then look up every one of these restaurants that he talked about and get so hungry, right? Get so hungry because to define a supper club, and I have several books on it, and we'll do all of them, not tonight, but we'll do all of them. What makes a supper club special is, first of all, whether it's owned by a chef, has an executive chef, or maybe it's a grandmother and a chef who own it, whatever it is, are recipes that are put together, not so much like a chefy restaurant that you'd think on the coasts, east or west, but something using kind of local Midwesty ingredients. In fact, you won't find probably a supper club on the West Coast, and you might find a few on the East Coast, maybe upstate New York, maybe. I'll have to look for a book on that. Anybody knows of a book on that, leave me a comment in the comments down below. But it's kind of a Midwest thing, upper Great Lakes, I've noticed, because in southern Illinois and in lots of Iowa, I've never seen one. I've never seen one in Nebraska. So I'm not sure about the locale, but I do know that it's local stuff, local source for the most part, although I've seen some, and I read about some in this book, where the chefs and the owners fly seafood in, which is interesting because there is really no seafood in the Midwest. But maybe up by the Great Lakes, that makes people in a seafood mood, maybe. Daniel's kind of a Michigan Great Lakes type of person, Daniel. I don't know. I don't know what the connection with that is. I know growing up we had a kind of a supper club, but it was a Chicago kind of deal. It was kind of one in that it had private recipes, Midwest favorites, and you could buy a lot of the things like their dressings and stuff and take it as an at-home purchase that you couldn't get at the grocery store. So bottom line is there's a lot of controversy of what constitutes a supper club, let alone a Wisconsin one. But this guy does a pretty good job with it in this book. If you like to travel, and I know my mom's side of the family says, why bother travel unless you're going to a restaurant destination? This is the book for you. If you think you're going to be Milwaukee visiting one of your friends, If you're going to go to one of the universities there to visit your grandchild or a friend of your friend's child, this is a good book to check out, as well as the Wisconsin Supper Club situation. Check it out, do your research, and find out what restaurants you want to go to. Are you a person that likes seafood? Are you a person that likes steaks? Some supper clubs have healthier menus than others. If you like vegetarian, find one that does vegetarian, but there's all kinds out there, and it all has to do with the locales in the region. So the book, I think it was a little spendy. I think it's a private publisher. It's like $35, but again, if you like your food, and I know I do, take it seriously, and you like to travel, this is your book. I have other books that you can look at, and you know, if you want to know more about this movement, go on YouTube and watch any of the free documentaries. Some of them are part of a PBS series, some of them are part of local news stories, and some of them are just small channels associated with news networks that cover this very topic in Wisconsin. Check it out, see if that's something that you like. I know on my next vacation, there is an alleged supper club in Iowa, in the Dubuque area. I'm going to check it out and I'll report back to you, but probably not till next summer, because if you travel as a destination for food, you need to get this book and you need to travel. Again, if you got any ideas or tips or books on other supper clubs, especially in the Northeast, because I really don't know much about travel and food culture there, and I would really like to know more about that, drop it in the comment line. So that's all I have for today's book review. Find yourself a supper club, do some research, and go check it out. Have a great day, evening, no matter what time that you're looking at this channel, and I will see you next time.